All right, I think we'll get started here. I just want to be cognizant of everyone's time. We have a few more people that are trickling in, so we can go ahead and get started. Thank you all for coming. I don't know if we realized even back in February when we had our webinar initially that we'd all be doing what we're doing right now. I would have went to Vegas if I was able to predict what we're doing right now. I'll tell you that much. So I'm really hoping that this hour can just kind of be a check-in. I want to keep it, semi-informal, but I would really hope to encourage everyone to be able to share out. I'll share a couple questions that I have to kind of get the conversation started. But I was hoping we could maybe go through and do a couple introductions. My name is Michael Bray. I'm with Michigan Lend, my Lend program at Wayne State University in Detroit. I'm also part of the USID in Michigan, the Michigan Developmental Disability Institute. In our Lend, we're coming up, we're recruiting for our 5th year. So I know some of you have been around a lot longer than that, but we're excited, and it's hard to believe that we're already at the end of our first 5 years. It's been a bit of a whirlwind, as I'm sure many of you have experienced. So, but it's been a good whirlwind. Even this year, I think we've really found some resiliency, not only within our program but within our trainees. They've been fantastic, and I'm not just saying that because we have some of our trainees on right now. They know they're fantastic, so I don't have to repeat that. So. I'm just going to go down my list, and if I could call on you if you want to just say your name, what program you're affiliated with, and the first thing you're going to do after we're allowed to be around other people. So, you know what, Alex, I'm sorry, you're at the top of my list. One of our trainees, Alex, I'm not just picking on you. So Alex, would you mind introducing yourself? And if you're a trainee, can you tell us what program you're in and maybe what your next steps are?
Yeah, so hi, I'm Alex. I am one of the Michigan Lend trainees. I am a 3rd-year audiology student at Central Michigan University. And the first thing I want to do when all of this is over is just go out to eat. I'm at home with my parents, and I've been cooking a lot, and so I'm ready to go to a restaurant. And then next steps for me is that hopefully in July I will be starting my 4th-year externship at Children's Minnesota in Minneapolis.
Yay! Congrats. Thanks, Alex. Oh, and just to mention also, we're recording the session, so only share what you want to share in a recording. I just want to make this available to the GLLC when we're done, just because I'm hoping we can share some resources. So next time I let Jennifer Mendez.
Hi.
Hi, go ahead.
I'm Jenny Mendez, and I work very closely with Mike at the Michigan Lend at Wayne State University. I'm a faculty in the School of Medicine. And the one thing that I'd like to do is to go and get an ice cream that's not from a carton.
That's a good one. Yeah, same here. Thank you, Jenny. Andrea Whitworth.
Hello, everybody. I'm Andrea Whitwer. I'm from the Nice Hunger Center, Ohio State University, Lend, and USAID. And when it's over, I just want to hug people. Like, hug. Watch out, everyone. Hugs everywhere.
Yes, yeah, I do miss that too. Thank you, Andrea. Ann Cutler.
Sorry, it took me a minute to unmute.
That's okay.
Hi, everyone. I'm with the Illinois Lend, and the first thing I want to do is go hiking with my daughter, who's working as an engineer in California in a plant that makes toilet paper.
Oh, wow. I mean, you couldn't have scripted that, right? Good Lord. Oh my gosh, thanks, Ed. Who do I see next? I see Candy Bush.
So I finally just got my audio working, so I missed it.
Oh, perfect.
I can smiles on people's faces. I'm like, oh, they look like sound like they're having a great conversation. I have no clue what's going on, though.
So we're just, if you want to just introduce yourself, the program you're affiliated with, and the first thing you want to do when we're allowed to be around other people.
Oh, wow. The first thing. Okay. So my name is Candy Bush. I'm the director of the Family Center for Children and Youth with Special Healthcare Needs. We are housed within our state's Title V Children's Special Healthcare Services program. I am the family coordinator for the Michigan Lund Project, and so happy that we are able to be part of this amazing training program that is available. The first thing that I want to do once we can see other people, I guess really just spend some quality time with my younger son. Right before all of this happened, he moved into his very own and first apartment on campus of a school that specializes in supporting people with disabilities. And so this has been a really trying time for him. He's in an apartment by himself and away from us. And so I miss him terribly.
Oh, thanks, Candy. Yeah. I think we're all in that. Definitely missing a lot of people. Kruti.
Hi.
Hi. We're just. Go ahead.
Kruti Acharya with the Illinois Lend. What I would like to, oh goodness, the first thing that I would like to do, I want to go to a dog park and let my dog like run around with other dogs and like meet other humans besides our family.
Yeah, I think my dog would agree with you. I think he's in withdrawals right now because that's his favorite place in the universe. So
yeah, I think our dog's a little bit bored with us right now.
I know the joke is that the animals are all happy we're home, but I think they're at the point where like, are you ever leaving so I can just sit still? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you, Kruti. Who do I see next? Christy James.
Hi, I'm Christy James. I'm with the Indiana Lend. I'm the data coordinator and family faculty. And I am going to go see my parents and give them a hug.
Yep. Good. Very good. Jen Smith.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jen Smith. I'm the director of the Lend program in Cincinnati. The first thing I'm going to do is spend some time with my godson. His 8th birthday was during this fiasco, and Aunt Jen is very used to spoiling him and his siblings. So I hope to continue to spoil them rotten whenever I get to see them in person.
I bet they're excited about that too.
Yeah, we're all having withdrawal, like you said.
Oh yeah. Thanks, Jen. Lisa Huckleberry.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lisa Huckleberry, and I am family faculty with the Michigan Lend, but I also work under Candy Bush at the Family Center for Children and Youth with Special Healthcare Needs. I'm a parent consultant at the Family Center. I've been quite crazy. We've been working from home for a long time, as many of you have been now, right? And so, the first thing I'm going to do, well, if I can't take a vacation to the beach right away, which probably can't do right away, is to go down to get out of DeWitt. And those of you that aren't from Michigan, I'm in the mid-Michigan area, but kind of from the Wayne County area, which is down by Metro Detroit Airport. And I'm going to go down and see my son and his family and my sister, because I haven't seen anybody since Christmas, and I miss everyone a ton.
Thank you, Lisa. Natalie, another one of our Lend trainees.
Hi there, I'm Natalie. I'm with the Michigan Lend cohort currently. I graduated in December from the occupational therapy program at Western, and I'm currently in the clinical mental health counseling master's program. The first thing I have to do is take my board exam for the occupational therapy registration, because it's been canceled and canceled and canceled, so I'm forced to do that. But I really want to see my mom, who's in assisted living and has been there alone for a long time now, and she wants to see me, so I want to see her as well and just reconnect with friends and people.
Okay, thank you, Natalie.
Yeah.
Paula Revenue.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Paula Rabu. I'm from the Nice-Sunderland at Ohio State. And I'm kind of a blend of Anne and Andrea. You know, I see kids walking by and you can't get close to them to, you know, engage with them. That's very difficult. And I also just want to get out of town and go somewhere.
Thank you, Paula. Sharon Milberger.
Hi, I'm Sharon Milberger. I'm the director of Michigan Lend and the Michigan USED. And I'm going to combine everybody's. I want to take a hike to a restaurant where I will my older son who's in California and my mother who I haven't seen. And I don't have a dog, or else we'd go to the dog park too.
Thanks, Sharon. Stephen.
Hi, this is Stefan, and I'm
Stefan, sorry, Stefan.
Of the associate director of the Indiana Land. And I've a lot of similar things, but I'm anxious to hang out with my 4-year-old grandson because I'm his favorite person in the world. He does not really understand why we can't get together because he likes to come here and play. And I really need a haircut and a massage.
I hear that. I think we had one. Julia, we're just going around introducing ourselves and talking about the first thing we're going to do when we can be around other people.
I'm Julia Hernandez, and I agree. I desperately need a haircut.
Thanks. Julia works at the USED at my DDI with us, and glad you could join us today. So that's interesting. So obviously the common theme amongst all of our responses was to be around others. And I know that's one thing that we've definitely had to deal with the LEND program, at least in Michigan, is, oh, let's see here. Was somebody else trying to get on? Where's Julia? Okay, there we go. Sorry, there's some background noise. Is to manage this, and I sent the email around to see if anyone wanted to volunteer for this webinar. It was kind of like, yeah, I don't know, another Zoom session, or I'm a little busy, but I'm glad we could all get together, and I think it would be really beneficial. I know it would be beneficial for me and for the Michigan Lend to hear what others are doing, just to kind of get a sense of how we're administering our programs, how we're working with our trainees during this time, and then also looking ahead after this time. What's that going to look like? I don't think it's going to look like it did before the time, as I'm sure most of you would agree. And what our LEND programs may look like going forward. What have we done to adapt? What kind of innovative things have people been doing that we can share? And I'm going to share my screen here. I have just a couple guiding questions, and Sharon, if you want to join me, I was going to start out to talk about what we're doing in Michigan, and share a couple of the resources. And I want to encourage everyone too, if you post any links or anything you're talking about today in the chat, we'll save that and make that available to everyone along with the recording. So if there are some really good resources out there that folks have that they would like to share, we can create a repository for those. Okay. So, just gonna let people volunteer, but we'll start out. So 2 questions that I just kind of thought of this morning, actually. So what have you been doing to meet the needs of your LEND trainees during the pandemic? For example, modifying clinical visits. I know that was a big one for us, because we have, our trainees still are looking to finish their hours for this year and to meet the requirements for the LEND. And then a secondary question, how can LEND programs, faculty, trainees meet the needs of individuals and families during an event like this, and then thinking about afterwards and what that might look like. How can we, be leaders in meeting the needs of the individuals we serve moving forward? We've all been very caught up in right now, and because it's been so rapidly moving and changing. But I'm really starting to think, well, what are our LEND trainees going to be doing a year from now, 2 years from now? And how's it going to look different than they thought it would? Or how's it going to look different than we thought it would for them? So a couple of things we've been doing, and Sharon, please jump in anytime on this. So I'll share a couple of resources we've developed to try to accommodate our trainees. So we administer most of our curriculum through Canvas at Wayne State. So we have a lot of our didactic stuff up here. But we've developed a couple different resources to offer our trainees, just to try to consolidate everything into one place, and also to try to offer these virtual experiences, you know, whether they're clinically related, community related, family related, whatever they are. As I'm sure you're all aware, you know, the explosion of virtual experiences, everything's moving online, conferences, webinars, different types of training, and so on and so forth. So we developed a couple of resources, actually. I'll start with the more direct one for our LEND trainees. We created a page on our Canvas website, just listing different types of opportunities, trying to keep up with all of the different clinically related opportunities, some community and family related opportunities. You know, we really looked at AUCD. They've been pumping out webinars and different types of resources that have been really great. One thing, and this came from the trainees, from one of our trainees, was, well, what about podcasts? There are several, I mean, you know, hundreds of disability related podcasts run by advocates, podcasts run by families, you know, clinicians, you name it. So we started to collect some of those to offer, as they can be, you know, different types of resources. And of course, you know, the hard part about all of this is really vetting these resources. We want to make sure that they're in line with our mission. We want to make sure that the information is evidence-based. We don't want, you know, any, as we know the dangers of misinformation these days. We want to make sure that anything we're putting up here is coming from a reliable resource. And that's always been, it's a tough part. It's a little tricky, but I feel like we have a good list here. The other piece, Sharon and Jane Turner, co-director of MyLend, to adapt our clinical hours, they developed some case-based training. So some of our trainees weren't able to, say, visit audiology clinic before everything got shut down, or to visit some of our different, you know, like ABA opportunities and different clinics. So they developed some clinical case studies for them to review, to respond to write a paper. Just you know, trying to think on the fly and offer these resources, and to make sure that they're rich, that they're providing, that they're thought-provoking, that they're providing. You know, it's not going to be the same. We know that, but you know, we're hoping it'll still be beneficial to our trainees. Did I miss anything, Sharon? No.
I don't think so, Mike. The only other thing is that we also just, some of the cases that we're talking about are COVID related. So we're
yes.
infusing what's going on into the cases that we're discussing.
Right, yeah, thank you. The other piece, and this was on the USID side, but we're trying to make it available to everyone, is we developed a couple web pages off of our website, one particularly geared towards COVID-19 resources. So really, you know, focusing on COVID-19 resources for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities, families, and so on. And then the other piece, and I'll make sure to share these links in the chat as well, is, you know, one big thing, and Sharon, if you could comment on this, because I know you've been a great leader on this, is self-care, and amassing some different self-care resources. So the staff's just done a wonderful job putting these together. Some physical care, mental self-care, emotional, spiritual. So really making sure that people are taking care of themselves during this time too, which is a big thing. So I'll share the links to all this in the chat. But yeah, that's, anything else? Do our trainees want to comment at all? I mean, it's just, of course, been kind of a whirlwind, but those are some of the things that we've done to try to adapt the training.
Well, I feel like you all have given us a wealth of resources to continue to work and to learn and to engage. So I'm grateful for that. There's always emails with new webinars and new opportunities. So it's from the trainee perspective, I think it's been very well managed.
Thanks, Natalie.
Thank you.
Well, and to your credit and to all your cohorts' credit, you all have been incredibly flexible with everything going on. You know, it was such a punch to the gut. You know, when everything happened, we're like, oh, okay, well, how do we do this now? So,
well, I think if you're inflexible in these situations, you're going to be in big trouble.
Yeah,
It's just part of life, and
Right.
you just adjust, you adapt. That's what it's all about. So I
Absolutely.
think you've done a great job.
Great, thank you. Any other, so someone
Mike, I
from
was just going to
oh, go
add
ahead.
just one comment about the self-care and what I've tried to do, and I am a firm believer in self-care, and even before all of this, try to align it with leadership competencies. And when you think about the concentric circles, the maternal child health competencies, included in that center one should be self-care. So it's just we're doing it just with a much heavier emphasis now.
Great, thank you. So do we have someone from another program, another LEND program that would want to share what's going on with them?
I can go.
Sure.
This is Jen from Cincinnati. Yeah, speaking of withdrawal, I think that has been the hardest thing for our trainees because they're used to being together every Tuesday and Thursday as a cohort. And I think all of us have just been really thankful that this happened when it did during the year, towards the end of the year, that we can kind of limp across the finish line. It would have been much more difficult, I think, to start out the year. And so I think all of us now are kind of shifting gears, trying to think about what will this look like if we, can't. We have focused a lot on kind of preparing our trainees for telehealth. And so in the morning, when they typically do their clinical activities, we've been doing some different didactics and some different case conferences, and basically teaching them, about telehealth and what that is going to look like, specifically at Children's, because I think it's going to be a long time before we get up and running again in person. So a lot of time has been spent on that. We also did a cool activity where we streamed Crip Camp through Netflix. And we watched it together as a group. And then we were really lucky that one of our faculty members works with Dr. Rubenstein in Philadelphia, and it was his family that had started the camp. And so we had like a little discussion with him, which was really cool. And then we had our poster session virtually with the OSU program, which I think was a big success. Just trying to think of what else. I think the big thing for us that we have heard from our trainees is wanting frequent communication. So we've been trying to send frequent updates as we hear things, from the hospital to them. And we also use Canvas as well, so everything is kind of posted there. We did alternative assignment, like documents that I can send out to everybody via email that just had different webinars and different activities and stuff that they could supplement. Yeah, so probably a lot of the same type of activities that other folks are doing.
Cool. And you know what? Thanks for reminding me. Yeah, we too, we also did a virtual poster session for our final session and used Zoom and did the breakout rooms with it, and it seemed to work quite well. I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, we were too.
Yeah, I have full faith in Zoom, but you just never know how something like that's going to work until you do it. So I'm glad to hear that went well for you all as well.
Yeah.
Cool.
Fritzy, I think you might be trying to talk.
And I'm on mute.
Yep.
Should know better. We have our virtual poster session on Thursday. Mike, how did you use the breakout rooms?
So what we did is we had four different sessions, 4 different time blocks. So the first one we did 4 trainees, the second one we did 4, and the last one we ended up doing 5. But so we had them each in their own room, and they could share their poster. And then I put people in the rooms to start, And then if someone wanted to switch, they would just leave that room, and then I would route them to another room. And we gave them like an hour. So it actually, the funny thing is, the behavior of it was very similar to a real, like an in-person poster session, because people were kind of leaving and going in waves. And it seemed to work out really well. The one thing I would suggest that we did was, ahead of time, we sent, I made a PDF of all of the posters and sent them to the faculty and trainees and everybody who was coming, so that you could have a copy like on your end. Because that was the one thing, you know, you can see it, but it might be hard to zoom in, you know what I mean? Like, there's a little bit of technical stuff, but if you have a copy, then you can either bring it up on your, you know, side of your screen or print it out or what have you. But no, it went pretty well doing that, but you have to have someone to route folks in between rooms. That's the big one.
We did, so we're an in-person lend most of the time, and kind of at 2 major sites. And so our trainees have, like Jen said, our trainees have missed kind of connecting. And this last session we had, we did some discussion breakout rooms using Zoom, and trainees were just so happy to talk to each other. So I think as we as I'm thinking about next year, that's something that I have to make sure that we kind of use optimally, and to the max, is kind of using those breakout rooms so people can interact in small groups. So that's something that I think about. Otherwise, we did a lot of similar things with, you know, the stuff coming out from AUCD and the webinars and all of that kind of stuff, and pushing that out to the trainees. We have a weekly trainees that I think it's now bi-weekly, just coming up with different updates and things like that. Okay. So very much in line with what people are doing. For your second question about what we're doing for families, we've been able to kind of route some, we've been able to kind of support some telehealth. So specifically for like parent training. So that used to be in person, but now is becoming, it's now telehealth and online. And so that's, that's what we're doing.
Right. Okay, great. Thank you.
Critty, I'm glad you said that, because I forgot about the second question. We have actually used several of our LEND trainees to do like short little didactic videos for parents. And so they're able to learn about like how to do, you know, a visual schedule, how to teach waiting, how to teach asking for a break, like independent activity schedules, those sort of things. And that's been really cool, because then the trainees kind of get that teaching and mentoring as well. So, and they've been pretty successful, and parents have enjoyed being able to have them, you know, just to be able to watch kind of on their own time. And so we put those on our YouTube page.
Oh, great.
I think what's hard is just not knowing what everything is going to look like in the fall. So kind of trying to plan for all contingencies. I think that's what's, I mean, besides, yes, it's a global pandemic, but I think just kind of the added uncertainty of what it's going to be looking like in a couple of months.
Right. Yeah. And in Michigan, you know, the major universities are already gearing up to be remote 100% in the fall. So no decisions have been made to my knowledge, but that's the discussion currently. So I'm sure it's similar in other states as well. Thank you. Any other next program want to talk about what they're doing?
Yeah, this is Paula.
Hey,
I
Paula.
find that interesting. Hi, that the consensus is that people are feeling everything's going to be remote in the fall. No?
Yeah. In Michigan, yeah. In Michigan, that's they've been talking about it. But go ahead, Sharon.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know at Wayne State it's something that's being discussed. At other Michigan large universities, there isn't a consensus. I know last I heard, University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, get kids, students back on campus. MSU might be a hybrid. So I would say for Wayne State, it's leaning towards and then I don't know about the other schools. Are you here? Is that what you were hearing, Mike, or are you?
Yeah, no, so what there's no consensus yet, but the discussion is, what do they do, basically? But University of Michigan is staying pretty steadfast on keeping campus open in the fall. But of course, I mean, it's April 27th. So I think a lot remains to be seen how the virus moves, basically. Especially when everything starts to reopen, as they're starting in Michigan now with certain sectors. So
At IU, there's like various task force groups that are looking at all various potential scenarios so that we're prepared. But in conversation with some of the administrative folks, I'm the co-chair of our United Way campaign, and we had a meeting to talk about, well, what would that look like? And we pretty much felt like even if we come back, there'll be restrictions on meetings. And so we won't be able to have like our usual, bring everybody together and have a big fun luncheon. We're going to have to do something else. So it's not going to be even if people come, it's not going to be the same. So I think we just all have to prepare for a lot of uncertainty for a long time. That's just how it's going to be.
Yeah, and I share, as a couple of you mentioned it, thank goodness this happened at the end of the year instead of the beginning of the year, because trainees already were comfortable with each other and with us. We were I mean, other than missing launching them off, so we've already graduated, they're all gone, and I feel, I couldn't give anybody a hug or high five anybody, but a couple of other things we've been involved with. So both Cincinnati and Nysanger are involved with a family resource network that is a kind of a comprehensive guide based on a life course model of support. So we asked immediately, so many leadership projects stopped, clinical projects stopped. We asked all of our trainees to go on the hunt for resources for families and post them all to this family resource network, so that there was a central place. Because I know for myself, I got so many resources, I just couldn't organize them. So we tried to get all the trainees to put resources for families and for kids and for youth into this one central place. The other thing that we had our family trainees and our self-advocate faculty and trainees work on is a plain language Zoom guide. So self-advocates would be able to get some instruction that hopefully was more easy for them to understand as we were asking them to participate in more Zoom meetings too. And I can post a website where that's housed.
That'd be great, thank you.
Of course, we transitioned to online courses. That wasn't that, we like you said, most of our work is in person, but everybody had done, all the grad students had done online learning. So, we transitioned fairly easily with that. And then the other thing that we've had a couple of trainees work on before they left was this whole very disturbing conversation about rationing of healthcare. And what is that and what that might mean, and that was very startling for them. I think it was just, we talk about issues, about injustices, but this was the first time that I think it really hit them. Oh my goodness, what do you mean they're going to take that person's ventilator away? So those are some of the things we've tried to stay on top of.
Great, thanks, Paula.
And then one other thing, Going forward, I'm wondering, you know, we're also in the middle of recruiting for next year. So we had next year's trainees emailing me, oh my God, what's going to happen, blah, blah. And that's been a little also, it's kind of both ends of the continuum.
Yeah, thanks for the reminder. Yeah, ours recruitment closes on Friday for next year. So yeah, that really threw a wrench in a lot, because a lot of folks now they're at the end or starting their programs, and how is that going to look next year? And should I apply for this other thing called Lend? And yeah, that's been an interesting thing to navigate for sure. Anyone else want to share what they're doing?
This is Christy in Indiana. We did a lot of the same stuff you're talking about, virtual didactics and poster session. But we also took the opportunity and jumped on with Vanderbilt to do research around their the tool they've developed for autism evaluations over telehealth. And so that was, has been for the past couple of weeks, a lot of scurrying around, getting busy setting it up, but it is providing our trainees who are practicum students and stuff who needed more hours, it's giving them opportunities to participate, and that's been pretty well received. But we are having, like, for our normal, I guess, for the time being, telehealth appointments in our clinic, and the trainees are participating on those too. So they're not completely shut out.
Christy, with the tool development with the Vanderbilt, is that something that say trainees from other states could be part of, or what stage is it at as far as testing and development?
Vanderbilt's sharing it really freely. So if you want to do a piece of it even there, or just try the tool out and see what you think of it, I mean, they're really being really open and letting anybody take it and use it. So, but we decided to hop into research with them on, because they're still pretty early with the tool, so they were still in the validating.
Oh, wow.
But so we're helping them with that. So we'll share our data back to them, but also we've expanded it to what is the telehealth experience in general around behavioral health care.
And I would add, this is Steve, another thing that we've tried to do, some of the faculty are offering some like drop-in reflective consultation calls for our early intervention providers or some childcare folks, where they can have a chance to just talk about the experience and what to do and how to cope with it, or like how can we as providers take better care of ourselves, trying to figure that sort of thing out. And an interesting question, I wonder if anybody else has found ways to talk about it, is, and this was brought up at the AUCD national level, but the issue of helping families prepare for the hopefully not needed plans around, like, if something happens, if a parent ends up with the virus and doesn't survive, like, do you have a plan? Like, we all should have plans anyway, but this seems to me like it's bringing this to the forefront, and that may be of particular importance to some of the families that are part of our network, to have a plan in place. Like, what happens if you get sick, and God forbid if you don't make it?
Yeah, Steve, thanks for bringing that up. That's been a concern that I know has been voiced in Lend and through the UCIT as well. I know there's training in Michigan called After I'm Gone that's been around for a while, but I think that is most definitely amplified right now. And I'm curious, is anyone else or any other programs doing any training or trainees involved in anything around that topic?
Well, I could add, I know that
Sure.
it came up with our Family Voices group, because the family community was talking about this too. And because in fact, there was somebody there, she and I had talked about, I said, well, maybe you and I need to have a conversation about it and online or something. And fortunately, from her view, someone else was already doing that. So she didn't have to participate in that discussion. But
Steve, this is Jen. I think that our USED is doing some work around that. And so you might want to reach out to Ilka or Kara, and they might have some more information.
Yeah, and Jen, I know Hamilton County has done some work with aging parents, which is somewhat a similar issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, John Romer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sharon, I wonder with my ocean program, I know that is a topic that has come up. I wonder if there's if any of the family support navigators, or if that's something that we've been focusing on the project. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a grant that focuses in on older caregivers of adults with their family members. It doesn't have to necessarily be a child. It's often a child or a sibling, grandchild. And we are pulling together some resources too, because it's a huge need. And we're hearing, we had a impromptu focus group, if you will, the other day, just getting feedback on what's needed. So we'd be happy to share those resources too.
Michael, and then for the After I'm Gone, Diane did do a presentation of After I'm Gone for the My Ocean FSNs and caregivers.
Okay.
Yep.
Do you remember?
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, My Ocean stands for Michigan Older Caregivers of Emerging Adults with Autism and Other Neurodevelopmental Disabilities, also known as My Ocean. And FSNs are Family Support Navigators.
Thank you. Yes. I'm glad you can rattle that off.
Glad we came up with the acronym.
Yeah, and yeah, Julia, I know we have recordings of those presentations, and we can share that as well with the group, with GLLC.
Okay.
Anyone else want to share what they're doing in their land, or if there's any innovative practices that have emerged, in any area of the land? Trying to think. I mean, virtual poster sessions strikes me as something that I think we would almost want to use going forward at some point, or at least have on deck in the event that we need to. And that's definitely one thing that stands out. I know there's a lot of work around telehealth. I know in Michigan and around the country there is. So I know there's some. Go ahead.
I think it'll be interesting. I mean, I don't know how it is in other states, but we've been trying to push into telehealth in Ohio, and get paid for it, for years. And it's always, well, we can't. Well, it seems like we can. So that part, I think, is going to really allow, whereas in the past, I would try to build curriculum around telehealth, but it would never go anywhere. So I'm optimistic that now it'll be pragmatic.
Yeah, same here, Paula, with children's. I think we've literally been trying to work on getting telehealth services for literally 7 years. And turns out in 3 or 4 weeks, we were able to do it. So, and I'm excited too, because we serve a lot of folks in rural areas that it's just not feasible to get to us frequently. And so I'm hoping that this will start to, have an impact on those families, because, it's much more convenient for the families to not have to travel.
Yeah.
This is
Well, it'll
Steve.
make a really nice, yeah. Go ahead, Steve.
I was just going to say that I serve a governor appointment to my social work licensing board, and we're a composite board, so we have 4 licenses total. but that, you know, there's already some discussion on our part about what will need to happen around this. The cat's out of the bag, it works, but how does that impact licensure ability? Because that's not clear in our state law whether you can even do this. You can right now because of a governor executive order, and it's being paid for, but like what's going to happen when that gets relaxed? Do we just put it back in the bag, or how? What? And I'm not sure what we can do as a board. It's maybe a legislative process. I don't think it's a rules process for us in Indiana, but that every state's going to have to figure that out. But I think it will be, what role can we all play in our programs to promote that we make these changes? Because it is a way that we can reach out to populations that we can't get to. And we all have that in our own states.
It's also brought up like across state lines for us. And so we, you know, where we are in Cincinnati, we see a lot of folks in Indiana and Kentucky. And so all of us had to get temporary licenses in those states. So it'll be interesting to see, you know, what happens across state lines too.
Right.
See, that won't go away because states' rights. And so, I mean, as a regulator, what I would tell you is that if you're providing a service in our state, you have to be licensed here, because if something goes wrong, that's the only way that we have any jurisdiction over that. So it will mean that, and in Indiana, at least for our mental health licenses, it's a much easier process to be dually licensed, because if you have a similar license in another state, it's very easy to get. You have to pay for it, and you have to go through a couple of steps, but we don't make you take another test or do any of that stuff. You've already done that. We'll happily have you have a dual license.
That is interesting. That is interesting. And, you know, and that brings up another, or makes me think of another topic that we've been discussing in the Michigan Land, is administering, you know, telehealth services in other areas such as ABA. And that actually just came up. I think, Sharon, we were on an email today. What does that look like? You know, how do different disciplines administer their treatments, their services from a distance? I'd be curious to hear what others have dealt with or come up with on that.
Well, I can say for OTs are doing great with telehealth. I have a lot of friends who are now practicing, and especially I'm in pediatrics. So with kids, it's a challenge, especially behavioral issues, but when it comes to self-care and fine motor, even gross motor activities. Occupational therapists are being incredibly creative and making it work. So I'm pretty inspired. I'm going to a webinar this Friday of OT and telehealth, so I'll have a better idea of how the community is feeling about it. But from what I see, my profession is really embracing it, which is very OT anyway. I mean, OTs kind of are good at finding solutions to things, but they're making it work. So it's pretty cool.
One thing I can share is from our experience with our early intervention providers, and we opened up these drop-in groups for them, that there were a couple of takeaways. One was when they were moving to do this online service, some of them said, yeah, the parents really they're not choosing to do this. So, I don't know how many I'm going to have. And someone else would say, well, our agency had a meeting. We talked about how we would present this to families, and all of my families have gone along with it. So that told me it's always about presentation, right? So if we say, yeah, this is hard, but this is what we're doing, then people will come along. The other interesting thing is several of them have talked about how this is a real opportunity in a way, because our early intervention system has been encouraging and pushing providers to be much more coaching and mentoring as opposed to hands-on. And they were like, we really have to do that now. I really have to think about, how do I explain this, or how do I show you, or how do I use the toys that you have in your house, because I can't bring them. So it's forcing them to think about this in another way. And a couple of them at least acknowledge, like, yeah, they've been wanting us to do this, and now I have to. And it works. They had some examples of where they had success, or where the families actually are more involved now because they have to be there. So there are some opportunities to present this in a way that it makes it work better. I mean, it's not going to work for everything, but in some ways it's not all bad.
I think you're bringing up the best point, that from an OT perspective, you're engaging the family and using the tools they already have at home. So it's automatically a carryover from the clinic to the home setting. And that is a magical bridge that doesn't always happen. In fact, it frequently doesn't. Parents will be given these at-home programs and they go home, but they sit on the counter. I can't tell you, like 75% of the clients I worked with, they said, well, no, we didn't have time. But now they're, we're showing them what to do in their home, and they're learning in the process. It's hands-on, and I think it's fantastic. I think it's a great thing that's coming out of this. Thank you.
And it gives you a great insight to like what's actually going on there all the time. So
Exactly.
I mean, I've done some supervision with some therapists, and they're like, it's so chaotic. I'm like, well, that explains a lot, doesn't it?
Like
it
the home
explains it.
environment, we get to see what's going on to a certain degree.
So you can try to explain some things or offer suggestions in some different ways that might actually work, as opposed to just sending the package home and hoping, because now you can see, oh my God, no wonder this isn't making sense.
Exactly. Because why it's not working, because we're giving them something that doesn't translate in their home environment. So that's really a good point. Thank you.
We noticed really early on that our faculty and our practitioners who had experience doing home-based care they transitioned to telehealth a lot smoother than the others. And so we're like, okay, some of those skills need to be put into our didactics, because that was obvious when we looked at it.
That's a great example too of how this, a situation can come back and influence your program, and make you think about things in a different way. It's a great examples.
I wonder if there's a way, without creating a lot of work, but just having a repository of sort of building the case of the things that are working sort of collectively would be helpful. I don't know who would collect that and organize it, but it does seem like it could be helpful. I'm not volunteering myself, but I just, and I know Ben isn't with us anymore, isn't with AUCD anymore, but, maybe the new Ben or, or someone who could help with that. It could be powerful, I think.
Sharon, in the past, Hustle always had these sub-grants that they would award to funded institutes to be the coordinating site to have a repository. Do they still do that? Because that might be the way to do it.
Well, they have the FAST grant.
Yes.
Which might, depending on, usually those, when we meet in the summer, we're asked to give some ideas, some topics that we think might be relevant, or they get drawn off of our progress reports, when we say, what do we need TA in?
Yeah, that's what I was involved with the geriatric education centers, and they would do the sub-grants to different, but they would share the other, whatever was submitted in your annual reports, and then you could pull things out of there, and then they were the repository. They would hold it under them, but you got the funding at your agency to do it.
Yeah, so maybe we can bring it up. Are we scheduled? I think this is an in-person meeting this summer, isn't it? I believe so.
Maybe.
I think you're right.
Maybe.
Or at least it was originally designed to be. We'll see where it end up. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right, for early August. Yeah.
Well, I would say for the time being, if you have a tool or some information that you want to share, go ahead and send it to me. I'll just, because I'm going to start compiling a list from what's been shared in the chat. And when anybody sends me, and I can make that available to the group at least, it'd be a good start. Got about 3 minutes left. So is there anything, usually what we've been doing, let me thank everyone. Thank you so much for coming together. It was great to see everybody. And to hear what everyone's doing. There's some really good things going on. Usually, and this is Sharon's idea, so we call it the palate cleanser. So at the end of most sessions, we have the showing of pets, the showing of children, usually my 13-year-old will just sullenly walk in here when I call her because she knows she's gonna, oh, there we go, Natalie has her doggy up. You know, whatever you got. If you have some good snacks, that's a big thing in our house. Our guilty pleasure is we need snacks at all times. That's what makes everyone feel better. So, especially with a almost 12-year-old and 13-year-old in the house. So, but yeah, if you have anything you want to share, you know, you can email it to me.
Here, I'll just share this picture I found of myself. When I was playing, I was a friend of mine and I, we did a promotional thing in a grocery store, and we were Wayne and Garth.
I was just going to say, Stephen, you look just like Garth.
I was Garth. I was Garth.
That's good.
This is probably 30 years ago. So, but I still look like that, right?
I'm totally getting a copy of that.
Oh,
So
yeah,
my
well-
husband and I, we don't have any pets or kids, but I have been cooking a lot because that's where I have like most control. And so for those of you who have ever been to Cincinnati chili is a big deal. And so I made homemade skyline yesterday.
Ooh.
And it was pretty solid. So
Well, hey, if you have a good recipe to share, I'll put that in our resources.
I do, yeah,
That'd be
and it's
wonderful.
really easy.
Oh, I see Sharon's cat.
He loves Zoom. So I'm surprised he wasn't here already. He usually does. There's
a kitty.
That's one of the two, but this one in particular loves Zoom.
Like Natalie's dog is looking for the cat.
This is George.
Hi, George.
My dog is currently barking at whoever's outside, so he won't come here. Okay. Well, thank you all.
Michael.
Oh, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah, thank you. This is great.
Organizing, that's been great.
Yeah, thanks for bringing us together.
Oh, sure, sure. And so as we had talked about back in November, I think before next year, what I'll do is compile what we've done this year with the GLLC into a bit of a toolkit. I'll put together some sort of draft and send that around this summer for folks to comment on and look at, and then whoever takes it over next year can add to it. You know, follow the same protocol, or maybe obviously improve it. So.
Yeah.
You know, though, I've noticed that in a lot of places, people are just keeping things the same. They're not really changing. And so maybe you just like to be the coordinator for life or something, or maybe at least another year, right? Isn't that what everybody else has been doing? Just kind of keeping it the same.
Steve, you're breaking up. I can barely.
No, I'm not breaking up. No, everyone heard that. It's in the chat too. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Well, I think we have to have I think we have to have a comment period, don't we?
Motion carries. Thank you. This is a great meeting.
Yeah, Lisa, that's not even nice.